What if the people who lived the longest on Earth were not doing anything complicated? No supplements, no protocols, no optimization routines, just eating the same food their great-grandparents ate, on the same island from the same kitchen, prepared the same way for 1,000 years. On a small chain of islands in the Pacific, Japanese men and women routinely live past 90, with sharp minds, strong bones, and for most of them, no meaningful relationship with a pharmacy. Scientists did not dismiss this. They flew in to study it, and what they found on those kitchen tables did not match any pharmaceutical model of aging prevention. It matched the food. Today I am going to walk you through 20 Japanese foods sitting at the center of that discovery. Foods that modern science is now proving reduce cellular aging, rebuild the gut microbiome, protect the brain from decline, and keep the cardiovascular system functional decades past when it typically fails in the West. Some of these will surprise you. At least one of them will make you genuinely reconsider what a longevity food actually looks like. We are starting with the most surprising and working toward the most foundational, because the story of Japanese longevity is not told in order of fame. It is told in order of what actually matters. Number 1. Goya, the bitter fruit from Okinawa that most Westerners have never touched, and that pharmaceutical companies are quietly paying serious attention to. Goya is not a pleasant food by any Western standard. It is intensely, aggressively bitter in a way that makes most first-time tasters recoil. Okinawan elders eat it daily. They have eaten it every day of their lives, and the regions of Okinawa with the highest Goya consumption have historically produced the highest concentrations of centenarians in the world. Here is why researchers pay attention. Goya contains a compound called charantin, alongside polypeptide P and vicine, which have demonstrated hypoglycemic effects in clinical models. Multiple studies have confirmed that bitter melon consumption produces measurable reductions in fasting blood glucose and improvements in insulin sensitivity. Blood sugar regulation is not a diabetes-only concern. Glycation, the process by which excess glucose bonds to proteins and damages tissue, is one of the primary mechanisms driving skin aging, neurodegeneration, and vascular stiffening in the general population. Anything that keeps blood sugar stable is, in a direct biochemical sense, anti-aging. The bitterness is the signal. Every compound that makes Goya work is carried in those bitter molecules. Remove the bitterness and you remove the medicine. Traditional use: stir-fried with tofu and egg in a dish called Goya champuru, eaten because it was there, because it was traditional, because everyone's grandmother ate it. Number 2 is stringy, pungent, dark, and sticky in a way that defies easy description. It has been eaten in Japan every single morning for more than 1,000 years. The people who ate it did not need a study to tell them it worked. They just kept eating it. Number 2. Natto, fermented soybeans containing nattokinase, one of the most clinically interesting enzymes ever isolated from food, alongside vitamin K2 in concentrations available in almost no other dietary source on Earth. Natto is made by fermenting whole soybeans with Bacillus subtilis, a bacterium that produces nattokinase, a fibrinolytic enzyme, meaning it breaks down fibrin, the protein that forms blood clots. Clinical research has shown it reduces blood viscosity, lowers the risk of thrombosis, and measurably improves circulation. These are the exact mechanisms behind the most common causes of stroke and cardiovascular death in aging populations. And here it sits in a styrofoam container on a Japanese breakfast table. Beyond nattokinase, natto is one of the only food sources of vitamin K2 in meaningful quantities. Vitamin K2 activates the proteins that pull calcium out of arterial walls and deposit it into bones instead. Most aging Westerners are critically deficient in it, which is part of why arterial calcification is so common. Japanese populations consuming natto regularly show measurably better cardiovascular markers and bone density than populations eating none. The probiotic Bacillus subtilis survives the gastrointestinal tract in ways that many probiotic strains do not, colonizing the gut and contributing to microbial diversity that is now one of the strongest biological predictors of healthy aging. Traditional use: every morning over rice with a raw egg and soy sauce. Not as medicine, just as breakfast. Number 3 is a food most Westerners have never heard of. It is called the broom of the stomach in traditional Japanese medicine. It has essentially 0 calories. and modern research has confirmed that the compound it contains may be one of the most powerful blood sugar stabilizers ever identified in a food source. Number 3. Shirataki noodles, made from konjac root, containing glucomannan, the most viscous dietary fiber known to science, and eaten continuously in Japan's longest-lived regions for over 1,000 years. Shirataki are translucent, gelatinous noodles made from the konjac plant, Amorphophallus konjac, that has been cultivated in Japan for more than 15 centuries. They contain almost no calories and almost no digestible carbohydrates. What they do contain is glucomannan, a soluble fiber so viscous that it forms a gel in the stomach that dramatically slows gastric emptying, blunts blood sugar response after meals, and feeds the gut bacteria most associated with metabolic health and longevity. Multiple randomized controlled trials have confirmed glucomannan's effect on fasting blood glucose, LDL cholesterol, and body weight in human subjects. Traditional Japanese medicine called konjac the broom of the stomach, a preparation that swept the digestive tract clean. Modern fiber research has confirmed that the mechanism is real. Glucomannan feeds bifidobacterium and produces short-chain fatty acids that reduce systemic inflammation, support the gut lining, and regulate the immune signaling that accelerates aging when it goes chronically wrong. The people who ate shirataki in Okinawa and the mountain regions of Gunma Prefecture were not following a low-carbohydrate protocol. They were eating what their grandparents ate. The mechanism was there long before anyone named it. Number 4 was drunk by nursing mothers in Japan for centuries and called the amazake, the sweet sake, a fermented rice beverage so enzyme-rich that traditional healers prescribed it specifically for recovery, fatigue, and the restoration of gut function after illness. Number 4. Amazake, the naturally sweet fermented rice drink that Japanese tradition called the drip of the gods, and that modern fermentation science has confirmed is one of the most enzyme-dense foods produced by any traditional culture. Amazake is made by fermenting cooked rice with koji mold, Aspergillus oryzae, the same organism responsible for miso, soy sauce, and sake. The fermentation process breaks down starches into glucose and produces a dense population of enzymes including amylase, protease, and lipase that support digestion when consumed. It contains B vitamins, B1, B2, B6, and folic acid, produced during fermentation, in concentrations higher than the unfermented rice. It contains resistant starch that feeds gut bacteria. And the koji enzymes themselves have been studied for their ability to reduce inflammatory cytokines associated with accelerated biological aging. Japanese hospitals historically prescribed amazake to recovering patients and nursing mothers for exactly the reason modern nutritional science now validates. It is easy to absorb, genuinely nutritious, and supports the gut environment from which all immune function begins. Drunk warm in winter, cold in summer, sold at shrines on New Year's Day as the first thing an aging Japanese person consumes in the new year. A food and a ritual and a medicine simultaneously in the way that the best Japanese foods always are. Number 5. Wakame seaweed, containing fucoidan, a sulfated polysaccharide found exclusively in certain species of brown algae that pharmaceutical companies are actively funding research into for anti-tumor, antiviral, and anticoagulant activity. Wakame is the dark green sea vegetable that floats in every bowl of miso soup and dresses countless Japanese salads. It is extraordinary for iodine, the mineral the thyroid cannot function without, whose deficiency drives the fatigue, cognitive fog, weight gain, and accelerated aging that characterizes hypothyroidism, epidemic in Western populations. Japanese coastal communities eating traditional seaweed-rich diets have among the lowest rates of thyroid dysfunction in the industrialized world. But the fucoidan story is the one that has attracted pharmaceutical attention. Fucoidan, the sulfated polysaccharide found in brown algae, has been studied for anti-tumor activity, immune modulation, and its ability to inhibit viral attachment to cells. Its anti-inflammatory and anticoagulant properties are the subject of active research at multiple universities. Japanese coastal communities have been getting it for free with dinner for centuries. Wakame also delivers calcium, magnesium, folate, and the full spectrum of trace minerals that land-based agriculture increasingly strips from soil. Traditional use, rehydrated and added to miso soup, dressed with sesame and rice vinegar, served alongside fish and rice, present at almost every meal. Number 6 is the most extreme food in Japanese cuisine. Intensely sour, aggressively salty. A single small pickled plum with enough acid and salt to completely reorganize your understanding of what food can taste like. Japanese grandmothers eat one every morning. They have for their entire lives. Number 6. Umeboshi, the salt-preserved plum whose citric acid concentration is extraordinary, with documented antimicrobial effects against foodborne pathogens and alkalizing effects after metabolism that traditional Japanese medicine prescribed for every digestive complaint. The ume plum is more closely related to an apricot than a Western plum. The pickling process, salt and traditionally red shiso leaves, produces a chemistry significantly different from the fresh fruit. The resulting umeboshi contains citric acid in exceptionally high concentrations, with documented antimicrobial effects, alkalizing effects on the body's internal pH after metabolism, and direct antibacterial properties against the bacteria most commonly responsible for food poisoning. Japanese soldiers historically carried umeboshi in battle as both electrolyte replenishment and food preservation. The pickling process also generates compounds that stimulate digestive enzyme production and appetite, making umeboshi a traditional morning appetite opener, with the biochemical effect of preparing the gut for the day's first meal. One critical note: umeboshi is very high in sodium. Traditional consumption involves one small plum alongside a full meal, not a handful. In that context, within a low-sodium overall dietary pattern, the benefits are real. Traditional use: one small plum with rice and miso soup in the morning as a condiment, a seasoning, or a digestive remedy after a heavy meal. Number 7. Shiso, the medicinal herb growing in every Japanese garden that has been used in Japanese and Chinese traditional medicine for respiratory disease, digestive distress, and food poisoning for more than 2,000 years. Its primary active compound is the same one found in rosemary and lemon balm. Shiso contains rosmarinic acid, a potent anti-inflammatory and antioxidant compound that inhibits the enzymes driving histamine response, meaning shiso has genuine anti-allergic properties. This is part of why it has historically been paired with raw fish. Its antimicrobial properties reduce the risk of foodborne pathogens, and its anti-inflammatory compounds reduce the immune response to any that do get through. Paraldehyde, the compound responsible for shiso's distinctive sharp anise-like flavor, has documented antimicrobial activity against multiple food spoilage and pathogenic organisms. Luteolin and apigenin flavonoids present in shiso leaves have been studied for their ability to inhibit inflammatory cytokine signaling, reduce histamine-driven inflammation, and protect neurons from oxidative damage. Shiso is also one of the richer plant sources of alpha-linolenic acid, contributing to the overall anti-inflammatory fatty acid balance that characterizes traditional Japanese diets. Traditional use: fresh leaves wrapped around sashimi, minced and mixed into rice, shredded over cold noodles, and as a preserving leaf in pickled preparations. Before we continue, if what we are covering today has you thinking about bringing this kind of plant wisdom into your daily life more concretely, there are 3 complete practical guides in the first pinned comment below. A beginner's step-by-step guide to the most powerful medicinal plants at home, 30 preparation protocols with exact dosage and safety notes, and a complete home apothecary system. The kind of depth that turns knowledge into a daily practice. The link is in the first pinned comment whenever you are ready. Now let's keep going. Number 8. Matcha. The entire powdered leaf consumed whole, with EGCG concentrations up to 10 times higher than a standard green tea infusion, containing the only known dietary activator of autophagy, the cellular housekeeping process, whose slowdown is now understood as one of the primary mechanisms of biological aging. Matcha is not brewed tea. It is the whole leaf ground to a powder and consumed entirely. This distinction matters because EGCG, epigallocatechin galate, is present in concentrations up to 10 times higher than in a standard green tea infusion. EGCG is one of the most studied polyphenols in all of nutrition science. Its documented effects include suppression of inflammatory signaling pathways, protection of brain cells from oxidative damage, and activation of autophagy, the cellular process by which the body dismantles and recycles damaged cell components. Autophagy is now understood to be a primary mechanism of biological aging. It slows with age. EGCG stimulates it. Matcha also contains L-theanine, an amino acid that crosses the blood-brain barrier and promotes alpha wave production, the brain state associated with calm, focused alertness. The combination of L-theanine and caffeine produces a cognitive state that regular coffee cannot replicate: sustained attention without the cortisol spike, clear thinking without the crash. For centuries, Japanese monks drank it before long meditation sessions. They did not call it a nootropic, they called it tea. Traditional use: whisked with hot water, not boiling, which destroys the catechins. In a small bowl, prepared intentionally, as if the preparation itself was part of the medicine. Number 9 is a citrus fruit most Westerners have never tasted. It is small, intensely aromatic, and produces relatively little juice per fruit. It is also one of the most extraordinary citrus fruits in existence. Its fragrance alone has been the subject of aromatherapy research, showing measurable reductions in stress hormones simply from the scent. Yuzu, a Japanese citrus whose flavonoid profile has been studied for neuroprotective, blood pressure lowering, and anti-inflammatory effects, and whose vitamin C concentration, alongside synergistic flavonoids that extend its half-life, makes it nutritionally unlike any citrus commonly available in Western markets. Yuzu contains hesperidin, naringenin, and a specific flavonoid called yuzu flavone that have been studied for anti-inflammatory, neuroprotective, and blood pressure-lowering effects. Its limonene content, found in the peel, supports liver detoxification enzymes. Vitamin C, as the rate-limiting factor in collagen synthesis, is the nutrient the body needs daily to maintain the collagen matrix that holds skin firm, keeps joint cartilage intact, and preserves arterial wall elasticity. These are precisely the tissues that show the most visible and the most dangerous effects of aging. Yuzu delivers vitamin C alongside flavonoids that extend its half-life in the body and improve how it is absorbed and used. Japanese aesthetic culture treats yuzu as something close to sacred. The fragrance is used in the bath on the winter solstice. The zest appears in sauces and desserts year-round. The tradition is the instinctive preservation of something the body recognizes as valuable, long before anyone ran a clinical trial on it. Number 10. Soba noodles, made from buckwheat, technically a seed rather than a grain, containing rutin that strengthens capillary walls and D-chiro-inositol with insulin-sensitizing effects. From the mountain communities of Nagano Prefecture, where longevity consistently rivals Okinawa. Buckwheat is not wheat. It is the seed of a flowering plant, and its nutritional profile diverges from true grains in important ways. It contains rutin, a bioflavonoid that strengthens capillary walls and reduces vascular fragility. As capillaries weaken with age, blood pressure regulation becomes harder, bruising increases, and microhemorrhage risk rises. Rutin directly addresses this mechanism. Buckwheat also contains D-chiro-inositol, a compound studied for its insulin-sensitizing effects. Better insulin sensitivity means more stable blood sugar, less glycation of proteins and tissues, and a measurably slower rate of biological aging. The glycemic load of buckwheat soba is significantly lower than refined wheat pasta or white rice. Nagano Prefecture, famous for its soba culture, consistently ranks among the highest longevity regions in Japan, alongside Okinawa, a fact that researchers studying Japanese centenarian populations have specifically noted. Traditional use: served cold with a dipping broth in summer, in hot broth in winter. The preparation is minimal. The noodle is allowed to be exactly what it is. Number 11. Daikon radish, present at virtually every traditional Japanese meal in some form, containing myrosinase, an enzyme that activates glucosinolate compounds on contact and produces isothiocyanates with documented anti-cancer and liver detoxification effects that are destroyed by cooking, but preserved in the raw grated form. Daikon is a member of the cruciferous family, which means it contains glucosinolates, compounds that break down into isothiocyanates, and indoles that support liver detoxification enzymes and have documented anti-cancer effects. The enzyme myrosinase in raw daikon activates these compounds on contact. This is why grated raw daikon, beside grilled or fatty foods, is not just a garnish. It is a functional digestive preparation that Japanese cuisine developed long before biochemistry existed as a discipline. Daikon is also very high in digestive enzymes including amylase, diastase, and esterase, which break down starches and fats and reduce the digestive burden on the pancreas. Reduced pancreatic stress over decades of meals means better metabolic function as the body ages. The vitamin C content is significant. The folate supports cellular replication and DNA repair. Traditional use: grated fresh beside fish, pickled as takwan, simmered in oden, thinly sliced in salads. In every form, in every season, at essentially every meal. Number 12. Shiitake mushrooms, containing lentinin, a beta-glucan polysaccharide that has been approved in Japan as an adjunctive cancer therapy since the 1980s, alongside astatidine with a documented cholesterol-lowering mechanism confirmed in clinical trials. Shiitake mushrooms have been used in traditional Japanese and Chinese medicine for more than 2,000 years for immune weakness, fatigue, and circulatory decline. What modern immunology found inside the shiitake cell wall suggests those practitioners were doing something right. Lentinin activates macrophages and natural killer cells, the immune system's first-line defenders, with a specificity and efficiency that most immune supplements do not come close to matching. As immune surveillance declines with age, the risk of cancer and chronic infection rises. Shiitake also contains astatidine, a compound that reduces cholesterol absorption by supporting bile acid metabolism. Its effect on LDL levels has been demonstrated in clinical trials. The umami depth of shiitake, from glutamate and guanylate, also has practical anti-aging value. Strong umami flavor reduces the need for sodium in cooking. Lower sodium means better blood pressure. Better blood pressure means slower vascular aging. The food tastes good, and the salt stays off the table. Both outcomes extend life. Traditional use: fresh in stir-fries and soups, dried and reconstituted for deeper flavor and higher beta-glucan concentration. Number 13. Kabocha squash, containing alpha-carotene, a carotenoid that human epidemiological studies have associated with lower overall mortality in a way that few individual nutrients can claim, alongside lutein and zeaxanthin that accumulate in the eye's macula and protect against age-related macular degeneration. Kabocha is Japanese pumpkin. It is dense, sweet, and deeply orange in a way that signals correctly that it is extraordinarily rich in carotenoids. Beta-carotene is the most discussed, but the alpha-carotene story is the one most people have not heard. Alpha-carotene is a carotenoid that large-scale epidemiological studies have associated with lower all-cause mortality, meaning people with higher blood levels of alpha-carotene die later from everything, not just from specific conditions. That kind of association is rare for any single nutrient. Kabocha also contains lutein and zeaxanthin, carotenoids that accumulate in the eye's macula and protect against the oxidative damage that leads to age-related macular degeneration, currently the leading cause of blindness in older adults. Eating kabocha regularly is, in a documentable sense, protecting your eyesight decades into the future. The fiber content supports gut health and blood sugar stability. The potassium supports blood pressure regulation. Kabocha is also naturally sweet enough that it requires no added sugar when prepared simply. Traditional use: simmered in sweet soy broth, roasted until caramelized, added to tempura, prepared simply in season, eaten in quantity. Number 14. Sesame seeds, containing sesamin and sesamolin, lignans converted by gut bacteria into compounds with documented estrogen modulating, anti-inflammatory, and LDL oxidation-reducing activity, and delivering more calcium per tablespoon than an equivalent weight of dairy milk. In Japan, sesame seeds are not a garnish. They are a daily condiment, a constant presence in the small dishes that accompany every meal. The consistency is part of why the cumulative nutritional effect is significant. The sesame lignans sesamin and sesamolin are converted by gut bacteria into enterolactone and enterodiol, compounds with documented estrogen-modulating, anti-inflammatory, and antioxidant activity. These lignans have been studied for their ability to reduce LDL oxidation, lower blood pressure, and protect the liver from oxidative stress. The vitamin E content of sesame is primarily gamma-tocopherol, the form specifically effective at neutralizing reactive nitrogen species. The inflammatory molecules that alpha-tocopherol found in most supplements cannot address. 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds deliver more calcium than an equivalent weight of dairy milk, in a form that whole seed consumption makes highly bioavailable. Traditional use, ground into sesame paste for dressings, toasted and sprinkled over rice and vegetables, blended into sauces, present daily in every form. Number 15. Sardines, small, short-lived, and so low on the food chain that they accumulate essentially no mercury while still concentrating omega-3 fatty acids at levels comparable to salmon, with DHA as a literal structural component of brain cell membranes. The omega-3 fatty acids EPA and DHA are the primary biological reason that populations eating fatty fish consistently outperform fish-free populations on every measurable marker of cardiovascular and cognitive aging. DHA is literally a structural component of brain cell membranes. When dietary DHA is adequate, brain cells communicate more efficiently, inflammatory damage is mitigated, and the rate of cognitive decline measurably slows. The research on this is not preliminary or contested. It is among the most replicated findings in nutritional science. Sardines are exceptional even within the category of oily fish because their size and position in the food chain means they accumulate essentially no mercury while concentrating omega-3s comparable to salmon. Eating them whole with their soft, calcium-rich bones delivers calcium in a form that aging bodies absorb efficiently, with the omega-3 anti-inflammatory context that compounds the net effect on bone density. Their vitamin D supports calcium absorption and immune function. Their selenium supports the thyroid and contributes to glutathione production, the body's most critical internal antioxidant. There is almost nothing a sardine does not do. Traditional use, grilled fresh over charcoal, simmered in dashi, dried and eaten whole as a snack. The less done to them, the more they do for you. Number 16. Okinawan purple sweet potato, the food that accounted for more than 60% of daily calories for the highest centenarian population ever documented on Earth for generations, and that anthocyanin researchers are now describing as one of the most potent sources of cellular anti-aging pigments available in any food. For most of the 20th century, Okinawans ate purple sweet potato at nearly every meal, not as a side dish, as the primary caloric staple. The purple color comes from anthocyanins, the same class of antioxidants found in blueberries and red grapes, but in concentrations that purple sweet potato delivers more reliably and at lower cost. These compounds reduce oxidative stress, protect arterial walls, and have documented anti-inflammatory effects that researchers have directly linked to slower cellular aging on measurable biomarkers. The glycemic index, despite the sweetness, is moderate because of the fiber content. It feeds gut bacteria. It supports blood sugar stability. It delivers vitamins A, C, and B6 in concentrations that support skin, immunity, and neurological function. What Okinawan elders understood intuitively is what nutritional science keeps confirming. The most powerful anti-aging food is not rare or expensive. It grows in the ground. It requires no processing. It just requires that you eat it every day for your entire life. Traditional use, steamed, boiled, or baked. Eaten simply. Eaten constantly. Because that is what always worked. Number 17. Kombu, the thick kelp harvested from the cold, mineral-rich waters of Hokkaido, whose role as the invisible foundation of almost all Japanese cooking, means that every bowl of miso soup, every noodle broth, every simmered dish is delivering iodine, calcium, magnesium, and fucoidan in concentrations higher than wakame, silently through the food it flavors. Kombu is the reason Japanese food tastes the way it does. When simmered in water, it releases glutamate, the amino acid that activates umami receptors and produces the deep, savory quality that defines Japanese cooking. Dashi, the foundational broth of Japanese cuisine, is made from kombu. Almost everything in Japanese cooking begins with dashi, which means almost everything begins with kombu. The minerals in kombu transfer to the cooking liquid. Every bowl of miso soup made with kombu dashi is delivering iodine, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and trace minerals. Kombu contains fucoidan in even higher concentrations than wakame, alongside alginic acid, a gel-forming fiber that slows gastric emptying, stabilizes blood sugar response after meals, and binds to heavy metals in the gut to facilitate their excretion. The fact that kombu is typically removed from the broth before eating and the liquid consumed means that most of its benefit is delivered invisibly through the food it flavors. It does its work without announcing itself. Traditional use. As the base of dashi broth and miso soup, noodle broths, and simmered dishes. Rarely eaten directly, always present. Number 18. Miso, the fermented paste at the base of every Japanese meal, made through a process that can take months or years, producing probiotic populations, isoflavones, and enzymatic activity. Japanese physicians have prescribed it for gut health, fatigue, and recovery from illness for centuries. Walk into any Japanese home in the morning and you will encounter miso soup, not as an appetizer, not as an option, as a non-negotiable foundation of the day. Miso is made by fermenting soybeans and often grains with koji mold and salt. What emerges is a paste so dense with enzymatic activity that traditional Japanese medicine recommended it as a digestive aid, anti-fatigue food, and recovery food after illness. The probiotic populations produced during fermentation vary by style, but all traditionally fermented miso contains beneficial lactobacillus strains that contribute to gut microbiome diversity. Now, one of the strongest biological predictors of healthy aging. Miso also contains isoflavones, with structural similarity to estrogen that have been studied extensively in relation to bone density, cardiovascular health, and hormonal aging in women. Japanese women consuming traditional miso daily show significantly lower rates of osteoporosis than counterparts in cultures without fermented soy. Traditional use: dissolved in dashi broth with tofu, wakame, and scallions every morning, without exception, throughout a lifetime. Number 19. Sencha green tea, brewed multiple times daily by most Japanese households, consumed from morning to night by elderly Japanese in the green tea heartland of Shizuoka Prefecture, and linked in large Japanese cohort studies to significantly lower rates of cardiovascular disease, certain cancers, and cognitive decline. Sencha is brewed from the whole leaf steeped in water slightly cooler than boiling to preserve its catechin content. It delivers EGCG alongside a broader spectrum of catechins: epicatechin, epicatechin galate, and epigallocatechin, in their natural ratios, which appear to have synergistic effects that isolated catechin supplements do not fully replicate. The daily ritual of brewing and drinking green tea is neurologically a low-level stress reduction practice. The combination of L-theanine and the act of preparation itself has measurable effects on cortisol. Lower chronic cortisol means slower adrenal aging, better sleep quality, and reduced inflammatory signaling throughout the body. The cohort studies linking green tea consumption to lower cardiovascular disease, cancer, and cognitive decline in Japanese populations are not preliminary findings. They are replicated, large-scale, population-level observations from some of the most carefully studied populations in nutritional epidemiology. Traditional use: brewed fresh multiple times daily from loose leaves in a small teapot. Not as a supplement, as a habit as natural as breathing. Tsukemono, pickled vegetables, and an honest conversation about the distinction between traditionally lacto-fermented tsukemono with genuine probiotic activity and vinegar-pickled tsukemono that are healthy but not live fermented. Because this distinction matters, and most sources never make it. Tsukemono simply means pickled things. The category includes both lacto-fermented vegetables with genuine probiotic activity and salt-cured or vinegar-pickled vegetables that are flavorful and nutritious but not living foods. True lacto-fermented tsukemono, like nukazuke, vegetables fermented in rice bran beds that develop living bacterial cultures over days and weeks, are genuine probiotic foods in the same way that sauerkraut and kimchi are. The bacterial populations they contain contribute to microbiome diversity and produce short-chain fatty acids that reduce systemic inflammation. The vegetables themselves, typically cucumber, daikon, carrot, and eggplant, retain their fiber content through fermentation, giving the beneficial bacteria additional substrate to work with. Vinegar-pickled tsukemono are not probiotic. They are still high in fiber, low in calories, and meaningful contributors to vegetable variety and digestive enzyme stimulation. But the living component is absent. What tsukemono represents in the broader context of Japanese longevity is a cultural habit of consuming fermented and preserved vegetables as a daily, non-negotiable part of every meal, not as a specialty health food, as the thing that comes with the rice, every meal, every day, for a lifetime. That consistency, accumulated over decades, is precisely how ancestral food traditions protect against aging. Before I close, for anyone who watched all the way through, The complete practical guide to growing, preparing, and incorporating medicinal and functional plants into your daily life is in the first pinned comment below, including preparation methods, dosage context, and the safety notes most sources skip. Use the code FULLVIDEO at checkout for 20% off. The link is in the pinned comment whenever you are ready. 20 foods, thousands of years of continuous daily use. A civilization that built its culture, its agriculture, its rituals, and its daily rhythms around the things that kept people living long and living well. The Okinawan elders who made it to 100 were not following a protocol. They were not tracking macros or reading nutritional studies. They were cooking what their grandmothers cooked. Natto in the morning, miso soup with every meal, seaweed in the broth, bitter melon in the stir-fry, green tea from sunrise to sunset. Modern science, with its clinical trials and cellular imaging, keeps arriving at the same conclusions those grandmothers already knew. These things were not discovered in a laboratory. They were confirmed there. And before you make any of this part of your routine, one final note. Every item on this list has a real version and a shadow version. Traditionally, lacto-fermented miso is not the same as the product heat-treated for mass export. Sencha brewed from fresh leaves at the right temperature is not the same as green tea extract in a capsule. The real version is the one that centuries of Japanese culture was built around. That is the version worth finding. Tell me in the comments which of these 20 surprised you most. Are you Team Natto? Team Bitter Melon? Team Shirataki? I read every comment. Share this with someone who thinks aging is inevitable. Subscribe and ring the bell. I will see you in the next one.